everyone, Richard Gibbons here, MLS Director for Southwest MLS, and today I'm going to be going through what I call my MLS Basics course. This is going to be a pretty long class, but it's going to cover everything you need to know to use Flex MLS on a daily basis. It's going to cover, we're going to go over the dashboard, help functions, contact, searching, adding a listing. We're going to go over some of our products. We're going to go over some preferences that you can use, and quite a bit of information. One thing I want to go ahead and point out is down in the description for the list for this class, I'm going to have timestamps for each different topic. So if there's a certain topic you're interested in, you can actually go down there to the description and click on the timestamp that'll bring you specifically to that topic. So that way you don't have to watch the whole thing just to see the one thing you want to know about. So you can also look at this as kind of a collection of a bunch of smaller ones because those timestamps down there help you out. Other than that, let's just kind of jump into it. So here in Flex here, this is the first thing you land on is the dashboard. So one thing I want to point out just to start with is up here in the top left, you have different dashboards over here. A lot of you may be on home. MLS is the one you really want to be on because this is the one that we have the information we update for you and keep up to date. So if you're on the home, just make sure you click MLS instead, and that'll bring this page up for you. So a couple things I point out on the dashboard. First, you have your saved searches right here. A little bit later, I'm going to show you how to create a saved search. But what's really nice here is you can click on one of these saved searches, and it brings you directly to that search already created for you. So one of the things I recommend is like when you're doing a saved search, put your customer's name in there. So, you're on the phone with them and they call up and they say, hey, what's available in my area? You can come right here, search for their name, and then it'll come up with the saved search that has their name in it for you there. So that's one thing that's great here on the dashboard. We also have this MLS links section. First off, it has the links to the rules and regulations for you there. We also have the different tax pages down here. There's going to be a link to this video in there. There's another series of videos I do called the MLS Time Saver Tips that are also going to be linked in here. So these links we kind of try to keep up to date for you with all the information you might need to help make your day-to-day job a little easier. Also over here you have this My Listings section. So this is where if you have any active listings, you can click on that and it'll bring you straight to those. There's a couple of different settings I'm going to talk about with this section for preferences later. Like right now, by default, it only shows closed listings in the last 30 days. But there's actually a way to change that where you can go much further if you want to. And like I said, I'll talk about that when we get to the preferences section. Also right here, you have the menu. So these items across the top here, you see probably look a lot different than the items that you use because, for example, you don't even have access to change user. But what you can do there is if you click on menu over here on the top left corner, you see you have these little stars. And these stars are what's up top for you. So if there's something up top that you don't use often, you can actually uncheck the star and you'll see it'll disappear. And if you check the star, it'll come back up. And then if you want to change the order of it, over here on the right side, you can click on Reorder. And then you can take that and you can put it back wherever you want to reorder it to, and then hit Save, and it puts it back right there. So that's the number one thing I recommend is to find the things you use most often under menu and put them up top. One thing people don't realize is, even though you're only saving, a couple seconds every time you do this, if you're coming in here and doing this every single day, multiple times a day, those seconds add up over time. And time is a really precious commodity that we all wish we had more of, right? So the little changes like that are something that will really save you a lot of time in the long run. So make sure you customize that menu for the items you use most often. While we're on this page, I also want to point out that you have this help function up here. So under help, there's a couple of different things. If you click on help with this page, it brings you to like a textbook version explaining what that page does and what's available on that page for you. Underneath here, there's also a lot of great training opportunities made by Flex themselves. So you have the Flex Academy. I want to show you the video training. Here in the video training, they have a ton of videos themselves in here that talk about specific things. Talk about, reverse prospecting is a good one. I'm not going to talk about today, but it's a powerful function. Setting up a custom search template. There's also a really good video on how to do a CMA in here for you. the full CMA right here. There's a 37-minute video that walks you through how to do a CMA in Flex MLS. So there's a lot of really great training videos in there. So make sure you take advantage of that. Another self-help thing that's built into Flex right here is this thing that says guided help. So I'll show you how to do a subscription later, but subscription is a really great example of one that shows you step-by-step how to do it. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to type in subscription, and there's an option for set up an automated contact subscription. And you'll see what it does is it walks you through. So you hit next, and it tells you, okay, click on quick search. And then you click on quick search. And it brings you to the next step. Okay, show me how to search. Set up your search criteria. It literally shows you step by step exactly what to do. So like I said, I'm going to show you that particular thing more in detail later, but there's a lot of options under that guided help that really break down how to do those things for you and point exactly where to click on to do these things. So use that guided help. If that option isn't available for you, that probably means your browser has cookies blocked. So unblock your cookies and allow cookies for Flex MLS, and that'll work for you. Also, one final thing to point out, just kind of as the general navigation of Flex, is up here in the top right, they had this new thing, this little bell. And if there's a new message there, it'll be a little red one, like you usually see on, Facebook and things like that. And that's kind of a what's new with Flex MLS section. So they have things on here, like right here they're talking about a research activity where they're going to have a new concept for mobile. And if you do that activity, sometimes they'll have gift cards, or they'll even have paid surveys and things like that as well. Or they talk about using contact management or shape search options. So these are things that are actually created by Flex to communicate to you, the member, to let you know what's coming up new in Flex. So that's all for kind of the general navigation of Flex, using the menu, the dashboard. You got the notification in the top right there. Next, let's kind of go through and break down some of the functions in Flex. So I want to talk about, we're going to go contact management first. So right here, I'm clicking on menu, and then under contacts, I'm going to contact management. So this is where you can add your different your contacts to use this as somewhat of a CRM. One of the things I want to point out is you'll notice I have this blue quick add bar up top here. A lot of you probably don't have that because it's not there by default. If you click on advanced over here in the top right, then you can click on this show hide quick add, and that's what brings that up for you. And if you have that, all you have to do to add somebody is just add their name, and click if you want to have them to have a portal or not, and then click add. And then that adds them to your list. So this pops up. This is what pops up if you just click the add contact button over here instead. But now it just has this information in here for you. And you can click on edit contact if you want to add, organization, mobile phone number, home phone number, address, things like that. This is also where we'll look at subscriptions and portals a little bit later, and you can manage that information as well. And then I created this person so that I can also show you what the customer sees on the side of subscriptions when we talk about that a little bit later. So that's really all there is to the contact section. Like I said, add that show hide quick add section there, and that'll make your life a little bit easier. So now let's dig into what is really the most powerful part of Flex MLS, and that's searching. I pretty much always recommend just going straight to the quick search, and that's what we're going to spend the bulk of our time on here. Know that there are other options such as an address search or multiple address search, which may be useful to you, but really 99% of the time you're going to be going to quick search and working out of there. Now, the way quick search works, right here in the top left, you start with choosing what your property type is. So if you click on here where it says 1-residential, you'll see you have options for land or residential income or commercial, so on and so forth. So make sure you're in the right section. And one of the things you'll notice is, if you mostly spend your time in residential, but you go do one land search, when you come back to quick search, it's still going to be on land. So if things are looking a little different, this doesn't feel right, that's probably why. You can go up here to residential or click on this, switch it back to 1-residential, and then now you're searching with what you're used to. Or vice versa. If you're usually searching land, then nothing wrong with that, obviously. So the way Quick Search works is here on the left side, you have your different search options. By default, it looks at active and coming soon listings for you. But if you're, doing a CMA or something, you can pop over here and search just closed. Or if you want to see what information is withdrawn on the market, that's an option for you too. But I'm just going to put it back to the active and coming soon. And then over here on the left, you just kind of you narrow down what you're looking for. You're looking for a minimum 3-bedroom. You want a total of 2 bathrooms. You want a minimum square footage of 1,500 square foot, and you want a list price maximum of $350,000. So you'll see, as I was entering in these different options here on the left, the number of dots over here changed, and this view results changed. It went lower and lower, so now we're down to 131 listings. You can even add more fields to this. So, you have a lot of them on here already, but let's come down here and let's say you want to search for appliances. And you have a really picky buyer who specifically wants the home to come with a microwave. You can add microwave right there, and now it's only showing the 53 listings that have microwave marked. We can go even a little bit further. I'm going to add refrigerator as well, and then let's also add, we'll say, downdraft range. And I'm adding that for a reason, because you have this or right here. You see it says or microwave or refrigerator. So let's say they specifically want a microwave and they want it to have a refrigerator. So you'll change that to and, but they specifically do not want a downdraft range. And you'll see as you're changing these things, it says of microwave and refrigerator, but not a downdraft range. And then now you got it down to 37 listings. So that just gives you an example of exactly how specific you can get. Word of warning, I generally don't recommend setting up any kind of a saved search or a subscription based on anything that's not a required field. Because I guarantee you there's more than 37 listings of the 131 that have a microwave and a refrigerator. So, because if you get that specific, you're kind of at the mercy of people checking it or not. Doesn't necessarily mean it's there if it's not a required field. So, I show that as an example to show how specific you can get, but I probably wouldn't actually set up a subscription based on appliances. So, that's how you can add things down here. Some other interesting ones you can add is, say, your person is driving around town and they saw a sign for somebody and that's all they remember. They don't remember where it was. If you type in member, you can actually add listing/selling member. And you can come in here and you can search for a particular person. I'm going to search for Jeanette because she's the president this year. And it'll show you what listings they have currently available. According to your criteria. I just realized she's actually on a team, so her team listings are going to be under here. But that's an interesting one. You can search for if they have an HOA or not. Maybe do you want HOA? Yes, no. Like your person specifically does not want an HOA. You can add that on there. An HOA is a required field, so that's one you're safe to search by. You also have your property specific remarks. So if you want to search for something like motivated. We'll see if anybody has any motivated sellers. Doesn't look like it. I think right now it doesn't take much of a motivation to sell your home on a market. Or you want to search for like maybe fixer. Let's see if there's any. Let me spell that correctly. Search for the word fixer upper kind of thing. So now you get 7 listings that have the word fixer in the remarks. So that's another interesting thing to search by. Up top here, you have this thing that says MLS number, address, or map overlay. If you're searching for a specific address, I recommend avoiding that field like the plague. It's hyper specific. And if you miss even, if it's spelled incorrectly, if they put road in the road name instead of the street name instead of the suffix, there's a lot of things that can break that there. So if you really need to search for a specific address, I recommend doing it here, where you type in street and then add street number and street name. And then that way you can search for a specific street number and then just the street name, and that'll bring that up for you. In my case, I'm searching for my home, so I switch it over to sold. But there's the one listing that we're looking for. So if you have to search by street, by a specific address, that's the way I recommend doing it. Another way you can search by address that works relatively well is up here in this top bar. If you start typing the address you're looking for, it can help there too as well. Because what's nice is like as you're typing, it gives you examples. Like right here, I just have 374 CHER, and it gives me my next closest match. So you have a little bit more leeway there as well. So that's another great way to search for just a specific address. While we're talking about their search bar up top, let me show you one other neat trick. You can actually do this. I'm going to type in BR, comma, 2 plus BA, comma, city of Albuquerque, comma, less than 300K. And you'll see as you're typing that in, it's going to build it down for you, so showing a residential search of 2+ baths, 3+ bedrooms, 299,000 or less listing price in Albuquerque. And then you click on that, and you'll see it's going to bring you to the quick search with all that information filled in for you. So it pulled city of Albuquerque, listing price under 300, bedrooms, bathrooms, as you typed in up top there. So that's something you can kind of play around with. There's a lot of different options up there. I think you can even do area of. So just a lot of different options you can do there. Just a neat little trick. So another thing I want to show you is the map search. So let me click quick search. How it starts over again here. So when you're on a map search, I'm going to kind of zoom into my neighborhood over here a little bit so it doesn't have quite so many listings on the screen. Down here at the bottom, you have a couple different options. You have a square, a circle, and a polygon. So one other thing you can do with shapes here, which you can do only with polygons. This actually doesn't work with rectangles and circles. But if you want to save a certain area, like let's say you kind of farm this area here quite a bit, and we want to create this polygon. I'm going to include Highlands and Loma Del Rey and Stardust and this kind of area. And I'm going to create this shape here. When you come over here and you click on the word polygon, you can click on edit, and then you can name this whatever you want. So you want to, I'm just going to name this, say, I'll call it Loma Del Rey. I'm going to actually add today's date on it because I have other ones named that already. And then you can give it a certain color if you want to, and you can actually hit this thing where it says Save to Map Overlay. And when you do that, it's going to bring up these different options where you can do a new overlay or add to an existing overlay. I'm going to do add to existing just because I already have it created. But an overlay is a collection of shapes. So look at it like a file folder of different shapes. If you want to do a overlay for the Northeast area and you have all your Northeast shapes. You want to do an overlay for Rio Rancho and you have all your Rio Rancho shapes within that. That's what an overlay is, but I'm just going to do it, create to existing overlay, and I'm just going to add to my Northeast overlay and hit save. And what's really powerful about these shapes is going back to this box right here that says MLS number, address, or map overlay, you can now search for shapes you've created. Like just clicking on it, you can see right there, now I have the Loma Del Rey 420 listing or shape that I created just a moment ago. You can double click that and boom, it brings it right back up. So if there's a certain area that you work in a lot or you want to save those shapes for whatever reason, that's a really easy way to do that and use those map overlays. While we're on the topic of overlays, I also want to show you some of the MLS provided overlays that are available to you. So when you're looking at the map here, I just started back over in quick search again. You have this option right here that says overlays. And just for example, one of the most useful ones we have in here is the Albuquerque zoning overlay. If you click on that, it actually has the zoning map for all of Albuquerque loaded in here for you. So like I'm going to zoom into this area and you can see that, you know, here these ones are all R1D, these are all RML, these are MXH, so on and so forth. This is generally correct. But as with other things that I'm going to talk about later, it's always your responsibility to verify that, make sure that it's correct. You know, we do the best we can to keep it up to date for you, but it's not 100%. And if it's wrong, you're the one who's getting in trouble. So always your responsibility to double check that. Another useful one regarding zoning that we've created recently is this one called ABQ zoning. And what this does is a house can have an Albuquerque address, like from the post office, but that doesn't necessarily mean its zoning is the city of Albuquerque zoning. this shape helps demarcate that for you. So if it's in the red, then you know you're going to need to check the city of Albuquerque for what the zoning is for that property. If it's in the green, you're going to need to check Bernalillo County for what the zoning is for that property. And there's even some properties that are in Sandoval County that still have an Albuquerque address. So if it's purple, you're going to need to check Sandoval County to figure out what the zoning is. And then we also, of course, have Paradise Hills here, which is that HOA that has its own zoning. So if anything falls inside that, you'll check Paradise Hills for their zoning. So that shape was created for our back-end processes to help us with some zoning changes that are coming up, but you can also use it to help you determine where you should be looking to find the accurate zoning for that property. Another useful overlay is the MLS areas. This has the different areas for you. So I will zoom in here. You can see, Uptown, UNM, Fairgrounds, Southeast Heights, so on and so forth. So you have those different areas so you can figure out what number you're looking for there as well. So there's the useful overlays for you. So now let's go to talking about save searches. So I'm going to go back to my example I had before. I'm going to have a minimum of 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. I'm going to say 1,500 to 2,000 square feet, and a listing price will say under $350. That gives me 88 listings. I'm going to narrow it down just a little bit more, and I'm going to add my my northeast shape that I've created here, so that it's only looking in the northeast area. So now I only have 16 results. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save this search, because save searches have a lot of utility. There's a lot of different places in Flex that you can narrow things down by save searches that make this really powerful for you. So what you can do is up here in the top right, we're going to click on Save and then Save Search. So once that loads here, it'll come up with this pop-up and it'll ask you, what do you want to name the search? So as I mentioned before, I always recommend including your customer's name in here. I don't have one, so I'm just going to put 3+ bed, 2+ bath, northeast, less than 350K. And if this isn't, there's also some use in creating a very generic one. If there's something you find yourself looking for a lot, like I'm sure a 3.2 under 350 in the Northeast is probably a pretty common request. You can reuse this for multiple people. You don't have to do an individual search for every single customer. But from there, all I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and hit Save. We'll talk about subscriptions in a second, so I'll come back to that button. But you just hit Save, and now that Save Search is available for you in a lot of different places. You can under Search, you can click on Save Searches, and it'll come up right here with all the different searches you saved. There's the one we just did right here. And you can search for different ones. Like I said, if I have my Corrales search, or I have my Northeast search, you can search for them there. And then also, like I said, similar functionality back on the dashboard. So, and then as we go through, I'll point out a couple other places that save searches are familiar as well. So that's creating a save search. So now let's actually go to my save search. So I'm going to go to this search I just created and get back to that. So now we've done all this, you've got your searches, and now you actually want to look at the listings. So you got a couple different options here. When you're on the Edit Search page, you can click on View Results, or you can click on List, and either one of those is going to bring you to this page. And this is where it gives you just a list of searches that meet your criteria. While you're on the List tab, you can click right here on any of these titles, and you can sort it. So we want to do Sort Descending. So that's going to put the most expensive ones at the top and the cheapest ones at the bottom. Or you want to do descending by the approximate square foot. So your highest square footage one here is a $300,000 listing on Indian School Road. That's 1,946 square foot. So that's how you can look through your list options there pretty easily and pick things out. Then we also have the Detail tab. I'm clicking on Detail here in the top right. And that puts all your options over here on the left side. So now you can go through the listings and you can see the breakdown of information. You see the one photo for each listing. You can kind of get an idea of what you're looking at and narrow things down even more. Then you have your Photos tab. So on your Photos tab, this is where you can scroll through and look at the different photos. And one of the things you'll notice is that if there's a virtual tour or a video, it's usually the second, or depending on how many there are, second, third, fourth thumbnail right here. So this one has a virtual tour, and if you click on that, it'll bring you to that. But otherwise, you can just click on this little button here to scroll through the photos that are on the bottom. Couple other things you can do up here in the top right. If you click on this button, it'll bring you to a full screen of the photos. If you want a nice big version to click through them, you can. You hit escape to back out of that. And then you can also, there's a little blue arrow right here. If you click that, it just gives you a little more room to look through photos because it collapses this thing over here on the left side for you. Also, back over here in the Details tab, you have your Documents tab. So this is where you can go in and see what documents are available for the listing. One of the things I love is there's a lot of people who are great about uploading floor plans for all their listings in this area. Floor plans are a huge help, both for buyers, for appraisers. It makes sure your square footage, it gives you something to peg the square footage to, which helps you hopefully stay out of court. I really cannot stress enough how important floor plans are. So please, please, please use them. And to those of you who are, thank you. Thank you so much, and please keep that up. But this is where you can get all your documents and things like that. You can actually check multiple of them. And then you click on this View, Print, Check Documents, and it'll create a PDF for you that allows you to print all of them at once if you need to. One other thing you can do is if you're looking at this listing and you say, okay, I really like this listing, I want to show it to my buyer, you can come up here and you can click on Print. And then over here on the left side, you have options where you can choose different flyers. So I'll choose this Flex MLS Flyer 1 and hit Preview, and it'll actually create a flyer for you for that property. Let me see. Let's go to Sarah Detail V1 and hit Preview on that one instead. There we go. That's a little nicer flyer for you that you can print out and provide to your buyer. Detail with branding. Let's look at that one as well. That one's even better because that puts your information on there and takes that LOSO information off. So that's a quick and easy way to create a flyer. You just come down here and click on Print or Email, and you can send that to your buyer, creating flyers up there. Speaking of emailing, while you're on this, if you want to email just one listing or a list of listings to a customer, you're in the same area. So whether you click Print or Email, you'll notice it brings you to a similar page. So email, if you click printer-friendly version, it brings you back to that same place. So we'll show you that first. But here, you can just click Preview. And if you click on All Results up here and then click Preview, you'll see it's going to send them all 16, and it's just going to have that full report that we usually look at. Or you can even go back down to your flyer, and you can send them all 16 of those flyers. So that's one way that you can send properties. And what that does is if you click the printer-friendly version, they receive exactly what you see here. Whatever you see on this screen is what they receive, and then that's it. But if you're clicking on email and you do interactive version instead, then all it's going to ask you for is what information do you want to include, what do you want to say, and then it's going to bring them to like an interactive portal where when they click on the link, it shows them the list of listings. Let me actually show you what that looks like, because I can come here and I can send this to Emmett. Check out these listings and hit email. So when you do interactive version, let me get that email inbox pulled up here. This is what the customer sees with interactive version. They see click to view listings, and it brings them to like an interactive portal version where they can view the 16 listings that you sent them. So this here, it shows this listing's been incoming soon. It came out only 24 minutes ago. There's an open house on this one available, and then this one has a price reduction, and then this one's a listing that's a new listing that's only 2 days old. So this is that interactive version that's a little more what customers are used to these days, and that's what it sends when you send the interactive version. So that's emailing a listing. So that's emailing them just one at a time. But what about sending them, setting them up on a subscription, or a drip campaign is another thing I've heard them called. So we're going to keep this same search. We've got this search set up with our My Northeast shape, the listing price, bedrooms, bathrooms, approximate square foot. And we're going to go back up here under save and then save search. But this time we're going to click save and add subscription. And you want to go ahead and right here pick your contact. So I'm going to set up the existing contact. I'm going to choose Emmett Burkowski. He's the main character of Lego Movie, in case anybody's wondering, hence the Legos in the background here. But we're going to choose him on them. We're going to set save and add subscription. And then this comes up with your subscription options. So let's run through these real fast. First off, do you want to receive this also? Now, this is great if you only have a couple customers at a time. But if you set yourself up to receive every single one of these and you have 50 customers set up on drip campaigns, you're going to kind of spam yourself. So think to the future. For the customers that really need a lot of hands-on, you might want to have it there so you can kind of keep your tabs on what's going on. But if it's a customer who doesn't mind a little more hands-off, you might want to save your inbox some trouble. Send me an email when a contact clicks the link. That's a really good one to have for just about everybody, because in that way they're clicking on the link and they're interacting with your email. And people who aren't doing that are not being very active right now. So that's an interesting one to have. Enable preview mode is an interesting one. What preview mode does is it sends you the listings and you have to approve them before it goes out to your customer. This is great for your super picky people, the people who are going to yell at you if they get one listing that doesn't meet their exact criteria. You might want to have preview mode turned on for them, so that way you can verify the listings before you send them out. But otherwise, I'd say it just creates more work, and it's a little easier to just have the conversation that, hey, mistakes happen, something might slip through, but we're going to narrow this down as best we can. But that's what preview mode does for you. Down here, you can choose how often they want to receive it. Maybe they only want to receive emails on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So you can uncheck those other options and just have it where they set that up. Or maybe they only want to receive listings once a month. We won't be in this market forever, so this might be an option people will use one day. But then they want to choose it on the fifth day of each month is when they want to receive their listings. And then you have ASAP. So ASAP, it sends every single listing pretty much as soon as it hits the market. There is a 15-minute gap, and that exists so if you add a listing and you're like, oh man, I got the wrong picture on there. I accidentally uploaded a picture of a selfie instead of the listing. So you have a little bit of time to fix it before it goes out on everybody's subscription. So it's a 15-minute gap, and then it goes out immediately, one listing at a time. So ASAP in this current market is great just in general because the market moves so fast. But you really want to have, you don't want to have every listing that hits the MLS goes out on ASAP, because then people are going to get, 100 listings or probably more like 50 emails a day. But if it's something more specific, like, under 350, 3.2 in Albuquerque, then yeah, ASAP's a good thing there because they won't get quite as many listings. Otherwise, you come down here and you set your subject and what you want to say, and then you hit save. So I'm gonna put listing subscription, and here is the listing subscription I set up for you, and then hit save. So first thing it's going to do is it's going to remind you that subscriptions only send stuff that happens in the future. So anything that's currently on the market, so these 16 listings we're currently looking at, when you set up a subscription, have not been sent yet. So this pops up here, so it reminds you, do you want to email these listings now? Do you want to choose which listings to email? Or do you want to not send them? If you click the email these listings now, it's going to bring you back to that email screen we were just looking at, where you choose the interactive or printer-friendly version, and then you can go through and email them now. So that's what this pop-up is for, is to remind you subscriptions only send future listings. It doesn't send anything currently on the market. But we're going to act like we've already done that, and we're going to do not send these listings now. Now I want to show you there's one more important step the customer has to do the first time you set them up on a subscription. So I'm going to actually come back over here to my customers in-mail box. It hasn't arrived yet. But basically what it is they'll get another email that says your listing subscription. And they'll have to click on that listing, and when they do, there'll be a big blue button that says, accept, that they want to receive your subscriptions. If they don't click that button, then they won't receive your subscriptions. So that's an important thing to make sure you tell your customers whenever you do set them up in a subscription. Tell them to keep an eye open for that email and make sure they click that big blue button so they get it. And what'll happen is I'm going to come back over here to contact management. And right here, let's say status. So I must have used this email before because it already says confirmed. That's why I didn't receive the email. But it'll say right here whether they have confirmed that they're going to receive your subscriptions or not. And that's I went under menu and then back under contact management and then clicked on my contact. Let me pull up one of these other ones and see. So this one shows inactive. So this email has never received an opt-in request from this email. So you can actually click send opt-in request. So if your customer forgets to click that big blue button or they don't get the email for some reason, you can come here to your contact management and look. Does it say confirmed? If it does, great. They don't need to do anything else. If it says inactive, then you can click the send request and send them another request right here. So if somebody isn't receiving your subscription emails, that's the first thing to check. Quick note, if somebody is receiving your subscriptions and then all of a sudden stops receiving them, you can give us a call and we have some tools to look into why that happens. And then we can usually help take care of that for you. So if you have a situation where subscriptions stop going out to a customer for whatever reason, or they say, hey, I'm not receiving emails, what's up? Give us a call. We can help look into that for you because we can actually track what happens to the emails and figure out why that didn't work. All right, so now that we have covered searching and emailing and subscriptions and all that stuff on kind of that I guess buyer side we could call it, let's kind of go through some other functions in Flex, and then we'll go back and we'll start looking at the adding a listing side of things after that. So I'm going to go back up here into my menu, and we're going to talk about some things under daily functions to start with. And what I want to talk about first is the Hotsheet. So under the Hotsheet, you have two different options. You have the 24-hour Hotsheet or you have the custom Hotsheet. So the 24-hour Hotsheet is basically exactly what it says. You can choose your area and your property types, and it'll show you everything that's happened in that area and property type in the last 24 hours. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to add residential. And just so we narrow it down a little bit, I'm just going to kind of pick a couple areas here just so it's not quite as huge of a list. Let me actually pick a few more. All right, and then I'm going to hit Run 24-Hour Hotsheet. So this will just show you everything that's happened in the last 24 hours. So in the areas I chose, there's 8 new listings, one of which has already gone into pending. Up here, you can click where it has new listings. You can kind of hover over that, and you can also see there's been 7 closed in these areas in the last 24 hours. There's been 11 pended. And then you can see there's 1 back on market, 4 price changes, and 3 new coming soon listings. So that's what you can do on the 24-hour Hotsheet here is kind of go over these different statuses over on the left side and just see everything that's happened in the last 24 hours. Also under the Hotsheet, you have that custom Hotsheet option. So you can click Custom Hotsheet Settings. And this is where you can define a certain time period. So if you've missed a couple days and you want to go all the way back to 4/17, you can do that. And this generally, as long as you've checked it within the last 30 days or so, this will just save the last time you looked at it. So it'll show you everything since then. One of the things I really wanted to show you in here is over here on this right side. Remember we talked about save searches being powerful. I can choose this 3+ bed, 2+ bath, Northeast 350K save search that we created earlier. Set my dates, set that, and just hit Run Save Search Hotsheet, and it'll only show me the options of what's happened within that search. So now I know since 4/17, there's only been 1 new listing within that search, and that's this 315 here on Burma Drive. So that's what the custom Hotsheet can do for you. And one of the things you'll notice is this 24-hour Hotsheet, when I go back to it, it saves whatever my last settings were, which is going to be important when we talk about preferences here in a second, because you'll understand what that's for, because there's a daily email you can set up. Another thing under the daily functions is open houses. You can click on Tour/open houses. And you want to see, okay, so I have a buyer coming into town, and I want to see what open houses are available this weekend. So I'm going to sit 4/23 to 4/24. I want to point out Save search is an option yet again. If you want to see only open houses that apply to that save search, you can choose that save search right here. But just to make sure we get some, I'm going to uncheck that and hit next. And this shows you all of the open houses that are available this weekend, along with the listing number that you can click on and get more information on that, and then the who it's being hosted by and the scheduled time for each one of those open houses. So that's where you can go in and see the open houses that are coming up this weekend. Another really useful one under daily functions is input forms. So that's right here. And I'm going to point out this checkbox right here. It says print possible value for fields with lists. While I'm talking about it, I'm going to go ahead and click print so this loads for us. But what that option does is when we get in here, you're going to see like those first 7 or 8 pages has all the different options that are available in Flex. And then there's another 7 or 8 pages after that that include all of the available options that are available in a list. So that's something you might print one time, because this is what I'm talking about. When you check that checkbox, it prints these out. So like it shows you all of the available GRT codes, all the available city codes, all the available zip codes. So that might be useful to print once, like as a reference, just to know what options are available in the MLS. But otherwise, you're usually going to want to actually uncheck that box. So that way you only get these first 6 pages or so. And what these 6 pages are is this is really useful, especially for new members, where you're still kind of learning what all the options are in the ad listing screen, what things are required, what things aren't, so that you can bring this with you when you go to a listing appointment and you're at a house, and you can find the answers to these while you're there instead of having to go back multiple times. You know, it's kind of like if you ever have a project, you have to go visit Home Depot 4 times because you keep forgetting to get something. Bring a list like this with you, and you won't have to do that with the house. So you can see on here, anything that is bold, italicized, and underlined is a required field. So that's information you know you want to get while you're there. And then if you scroll down here, it even has, when we get to the details page, you have all those checkboxes of all the different things you want to check about the house. Those are all on here for you as well. So that's the really useful part, where you can say, okay, while I'm at the house, does it have a screened patio? Does it have a playground? Is the garage heated or not? You know, what type of construction is it made out of? Those kind of items you want to check off while you're there. So that's the input forms for you. And like I said, those are a pretty useful option, especially while you're still learning what is available in the MLS. So going back over here to, let me close out some windows. Back under daily functions, one last thing I want to show is the member lookup. So member lookup, this is where you can come in and you can look for offices, members, or teams and see, you know, what listings they have available, who are within those offices, things like that. So going back to over here in members, like I said, I'm gonna use Jeanette again. You can search for a particular person, click on them, and then it shows, has their mobile number, their email, which office they're in, and so on and so forth. And then if we were over on the office side and we clicked and we searched for her office, it gives us this screen that shows you the members of the office and the teams that are in the office. So that's what this information is useful for. And then you can also click where it says view office listings or view member listings, and it'll show you all the listings within that member or office. So going back to the example of your buyer says, hey, I saw a sign for such and such, let's take a look at their listings and see what they have so I can remember where it is. That's one option you can use there. That's also how you can find the contact information for people. Every single member in the MLS, their contact information is available there. So don't abuse that. But that is available for you. So next thing I want to talk about is I want to go through a couple preferences that are available to you in Flex. So here under preferences, first off, let's go under my profile. And then you have this personal photo and logo maintenance is where I want to start at. Because this is where you can go in and you can add a photo of yourself. I actually don't have one, but let's go through and get that added. So in order to add that photo, what you do is you come down here and you click on New. And then you'll come up here and you'll click Choose File. And then you'll go ahead and choose your headshot and hit Open.
And you just got to come up here and you just got to rename it. So I'll call it my headshot. And make sure you have this button right here, click that says photo. And then click add. And then that'll add your headshot on there for you. So I really recommend having your photo uploaded for a couple reasons. First off, whenever you upload this, after about 24 hours or so, it'll make its way out across the internet. So it'll go to, your Zillows, your Realtor.coms, all these different places that have your public profiles. And what that does is allows the people, the members of the public, to see what you look like. So you can't, so a scammer can't say, oh, well, I'm John Smith, and John Smith doesn't have his photo on the internet, so you can't tell that I'm not John Smith. So there's really a safety issue there, so I really recommend that. It's also your brand. I mean, it's who you are. It's how people know you. It's how people learn who you are and what you do. So highly recommend making sure you get your photo uploaded there. Going back under preferences again, let's kind of go through some of the general preferences here. There's a couple of really neat settings in here that are not turned on by default that some people like. So starting with on the search tab, right here you got this default listing report. So if you're a new member, it should have defaulted to the ABQ full report for you, which is a new version. It's the one that we keep updated and the one that has all of the current information on it. If you've been around a little while, I'm not exactly sure when the change happened, but sometime back before I was here, we changed from the ABQ old report to the new report, and some of you are still on that old report. And if you're on the old report, it says across the top, it says, this is the ABQ old report. Please change to the full report so you have all the current information. It says that across the top, so that's how you know it. And, we have some new fields, like, for example, the transaction contact fields that are on the full report, but they're not on the old report because we do not keep that one updated. So if you're still on old report, go ahead and change over to full report and hit save. On the email tab, we have this daily hot sheet one. So remember, we're talking about 24-hour, the custom hot sheet. Whatever settings you used last on those two settings, this will send you a daily email that just gives you a link to click on and brings you to the results for that hot sheet for that day. So, I've known people that like receiving that email because, they in the mornings, they sit back with their cup of coffee on their back porch and kind of look through their emails and get caught up with what's on the day and get ready to, get ready to take on the day. And some of the people like that might like having this daily email. You click on the email, brings you in, look at your hot sheet each morning. Over on the dashboard tab, remember back on the dashboard, I pointed out that my listings. And I told you that the My Closed Listings only shows in the last 30 days. This is where you can come in here. You can change that to 365. You want to see your closed listings for the last 365 days or longer. The same section has the listings to expire. So do you want it to start showing you listings when they're going to expire in 7 days? Or do you want more like 30 days? So you have a couple different options you can choose there. And again, hit save. Under the Listings tab, on that same My Listings thing on the dashboard, which statuses do you want to include? Do you want to see, canceled or expired listings? You can turn that on here. This is a really, really important one. Right here under the Notifications tab, you can turn this thing on where it sends you an email when a listing is about to expire. So by default, it says 7 days. And what it'll do is it'll send you an email on day 6, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, telling you, hey, this listing is about to expire. If you make this something longer than 7 days, like I'll put 30 days, it'll send you one email on day 30, and then again on days 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that just sends you an email that says, hey, this listing's about to expire. You might want to extend it or do something with it. So that's one you can go in and turn on that a lot of people really, really like. Just in general with this preferences section, and I mean everything in this preferences section here, I really recommend just play around. There's nothing in here that you can break that we can't fix. There's really not much you can break, period. Especially things like the quick search templates, the My Map overlays, the My Safe sorts, and the My Views. There's really powerful stuff in there that can save you a lot of time. There's videos on those over in the Timetable Tip series. If they aren't there now, they will be soon. That kind of goes into detail on how to use those things and save yourself time. Because generally there's a lot of things that you're going to do over and over and over again that you can save and not have to do as many times in the future. So I highly recommend playing around with that. I also highly recommend paying attention to that Time Saver Tip series. There's a lot of good stuff in there for you that we just don't have time to go over today. So now let's flip over to statistics. So again, we're under menu. We're going to look over here on statistics on the right side. One of the easy ones is just my production. So my production is just showing you versus you. So when it has this last year column, for total sold, it doesn't mean how many you sold in the entire year. It means how many you've sold up until this point. Like, today's April 20th. So it would just be how many listings have you sold January 1st through April 20th of this year. And it compares with this year how you're doing. So like I said, it's you versus you. You can see how you're doing in 2022 versus how you did in 2021. So really, just quick and simple, easy page there. Another quick and simple one is this market summary page. This is one of my favorite ones to look at. Flex updates this on the 15th of each month for whatever the previous month was. And I'm actually going to come up here to customize and hit new location. And I'm going to hit March 2022 under residential and then hit search. So this is now going to show us the March numbers where you can see, okay, here's the absorption rate. April 20 of last year, it was at 0.83. It got a little better there for a while up until September, but now we're back down to almost a half month of absorption rate. You can also see the number of listings. You can see the number of new listings actually went up from February to March, but so did the number of sold listings. So overall, our active listings actually went down. And then you can look at listing prices. You can see there's been a general upward trend of listing prices. That's not a surprise to anybody. And same thing with sold and median list prices right here. You've seen a general upward trend there. It's a lot of useful information on this page. Down here, you can get into, you have your average list price and median list price of, 22 versus 21. And then it also breaks it down by price ranges for you. So you can see that in 2021, the most common price range was 200 to 249 because I had 310 sales right there. But now that has shifted to 300 to 399 because you have 302 sales there. So you can kind of take a look at what the market's doing on that market summary page. Now, while we're talking about statistics, I also want to take a second to take a sidetrack to talk about a product we have called InfoSparks. Because one of the things you'll notice on this page is that these are really the only graphs that Flex provides you anywhere. And InfoSparks does a really good job of making that simple for you. So here under menu, underneath products, I'm going to click on InfoSparks. And we're going to let that load up. And InfoSparks is a product that's part of ShowingTime, and this is provided to you through GAR and Southwest MLS. Still waiting for it to load all the way here. And what you can do is across the top, you tell it what you're looking for, and across the bottom, you look at the stat you're looking for. So let's just say, let's narrow this down. You can go up here, you can click on where it says add an area, and you can search for just like a specific city. So I'll just choose Albuquerque. And let's say we only want detached listings, and we only want 1,500 to 2,000 square foot, and we only want 3 bedrooms. So that's going to show us here. This is looking at the median sale price. You actually can't quite see it in the bottom here. Let me change my window size here so you can actually see that. There we go. In the bottom here, we're looking at the median sale price. And then you can choose, new listings. You can choose homes for sale. You can look at pending sales or closed sales. And you can see how those different stats are affected based on the options you chose up top. Right here, you can also choose, you want to look at 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Do you want to look at a monthly, or do you want like a rolling 3 months so it kind of smooths it out a little more for you? So you have a little more options. Do you want to look at line graphs? Or do you want to look at bar graphs? So you have a lot of different options that are very easy to just kind of flip through in InfoSparks here and get the information you're looking for. So like going back to sales price, you can see this median sale price has had this upward trend over the last 3 years, to the surprise of no one. Also, while we're in InfoSparks, another one is up here called FastStats. So FastStats is kind of pre-created information for you. So like if you want this local market updates, you can just click on the area over here, or you can choose a specific zip code. I'm going to click on the area, and then it breaks it down where you can go and drill down to either zip codes down here or areas up here. So let's go with, we'll click on this North Valley right here, and it'll bring you this local market update for North Valley. So here's your detached and attached numbers, and your median sale price, and for attached and detached as there as well. We also have the monthly overview for the whole Albuquerque area. You can just choose that by month. This is the same information that we put out on our website that goes in on our monthly statistics. And this is a new one that not a lot of people use that I've seen. You have this ShowingTime showings report. So I'm going to grab the March 2022 report here and show you. This breaks down by area, shows you the total number of showings in that area. This is a really interesting number, showings per listing. So in Academy West, there was 893 showings over 36 listings, which was 25 showings per listing on average. So this can kind of give you an idea for you and your seller of what to expect, depending on the area that you're in. And then if you scroll down here, you see it has 52 pages because it breaks down every single area for you with more information about the price range, showings within those price ranges, so on and so forth. So a lot of really good information on there based on the showings data that we gather from ShowingTime. All right, so backing out of FastStats here, that covers statistics for you. So the next thing I want to do is we're going to cover adding a listing and changing a listing. So to add a listing, we go to up here in the top left again. We're going to go under Menu, and then under Add Change, click on Add Listing. So that brings you to the Add Listing screen. So the very first thing you enter here is also the most important, is your property type. We're going to work on residential here, but I want to point something out that, so we're going to go back to, 80% or 90% of the time you do residential and you get this one land listing. And then you come in and just muscle memory, you choose residential and you start filling stuff out. And then you're like, oh man, you know what? This is a land listing. I got to go back and change this. If you change that, you lose every bit of your work. It does not transfer over. There's no way to get it back. If you have to change your property type, you lose all of your work. So first thing you got to do is also the most important to make sure you get it right is choose that property type. After this point, it's a lot more forgiving, but you make sure you choose residential there. Now, there's two different ways to move through this screen. You can either move through it across the top here by clicking on these tabs, or you can click Next in the bottom right down here at the bottom. I'm a tab guy, so that's what I use. So I'm just going to click on the Address tab. So this is where you now enter the address for the property. So I'm going to use my home address here, so please don't stalk me. The first thing I want to point out is when you're here on street name, so my road is called Shiraz Road. Now, you can just type the RD right there, but searching and syndication to your IDX and publisher websites and even your populate tax data actually works a lot better if you put the street suffix over here instead. So I'm going to put just the street name, which is Shiraz, and then I'm going to do road as my drop down under the street suffix. And then it's northeast. It's in Bernalillo County, Albuquerque, 87111. Now, once you have that much filled out, you can click right here where it says Populate Tax Data. And what that'll do is it'll search our tax records, and it'll find it for you right here. So here's 3704 Shiraz Road, and then you click on this Auto Populate button. Now, if one of these doesn't match, like this happens a lot in land, especially like if you don't actually have an address, you can just click on this Close This dialog and just kind of go through and fill things out manually. But if you can auto-populate, you want to because it'll save you some work. You'll see it'll auto-fill the UPC for you, and then some other stuff I'm going to show you in the next screen. Real quickly, once you're at this point, once you've got your address entered, go ahead and hit Save and Complete Listing up here on the top right. And, well, actually, whether you go to the next tab or you do this, it's going to prompt you for the PIN. Let's talk PIN real fast. You just want to make sure it's in the right spot and then hit Use This Location. And you really want to double check that because it also gets that from the tax records. And I've seen ones where the tax record for Latin long is 00, which is somewhere over in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So double check, make sure that pin is correct, hit use this location. But anyways, we're going to click on that save and complete listing. You won't have to do this part because your name will automatically be on here. But what that'll do is it'll save the listing for you. And once you click that button, it'll start saving it every 2 minutes. So what's nice about that is, if you're working on this listing and your kid spells red Kool-Aid on your white carpet and you need to stop and go clean it up, you don't lose all your work. Every 2 minutes it saves what you've done so that you can easily get back to it again. And then to get back to it, you would go under menu and then click on My Incomplete and it'll be listed there for you. So let's kind of go through the form here. First off, if anything is in red, that means it's a required field. You have to fill that out in order to continue. Another thing I want to point out is these little help bubbles. So listing price isn't a great example, but when you click on the little help bubble, it'll tell you information about that property, that field. So I'll come down here and use a better one. Let's look at power production annual. When you click on that little help bubble, it gives you a breakdown of exactly what that field is. While we're talking about it, this is a field where you can enter the how many kilowatt hours a solar or wind system they have produces each year, and that's a number that appraisers can actually use to help support the appraisal. That's one way they can actually add value to the appraisal for green energy generation. But anyways, back up top here. So red's required. Use the help bubbles. We're always adding more and more of those to get more information in there to help you out. Real quick, I want to scroll through and just show you the things. When you do that auto-populate tax data, some of the things that are filled out for you automatically is like your area, your zone atlas. You come down here, you got your lot acres and your lot square footage, your flood zone, your year built, your elementary school, middle school, and high school, your short legal description, your GRT code. So all those things are filled out for you automatically by the auto-populate tax data. Now, again, quick note, it is your responsibility to verify that it's right. Data, we do our best to make the data as accurate as possible, but it's not 100%. So please make sure you verify that, because if it's wrong, again, it ends up being on you. And you'll notice right here it says last autosave. Remember I was talking about it when you hit save and complete? It just saved it for me 1 minute ago as we're working through this. So now to just kind of go through and talk about each one of these things. Some of this stuff is pretty obvious. Your listing price, your listing contract, those are straightforward. Let's talk about on market date. And I'm going to go ahead and choose coming soon right here so we can talk about coming soon end date at the same time. So on market date is the day that you're going to begin marketing the property. It's the day that the property is available to everybody in the MLS. So if you're going straight into active, that's the day the listing goes active. If you're going into coming soon, that's the day the listing enters coming soon. So that's what your on market date is. If you set this out in the future, nobody is going to see it until that date hits. And if you do that and you need to move it sooner, only Southwest MLS staff can do that for you. You have to send us an email to support@swimless.com and we can update that for you. Then you have the coming soon end date. That's the date that you're coming out of coming soon. So today's the 20th. Let's say I have a listing. I want it to go active. I want it to go into coming soon on the 1st, and I want it to come out on the 14th. The 14th is the day I want it to be active. You would set an on market date of the 1st, and you set your coming soon end date to the 14th, and that's the day that would automatically move into active. So that's the difference of those two there. That's one of our most common mistakes that people have. Expiration date is obviously the expiration date of your contract. Agreement type, the exclusive agency, exclusive right to sell, it depends on which one you signed. But if you're entering a listing for comp purposes only that you do not have a listing agreement on, but you still got permission from both the buyer and the seller to do this, you can choose comp only right here. And then in that case, you'd also enter entry only as service type. Otherwise, full service or limited service is based on the type of agreement you have with the customer. If you don't know what that is, talk to your qualifying broker or the legal hotline. This is where you enter your compensation. Variable rate commission, you do have to disclose if there is a variable rate, so that's a yes or a no here. There's a explanation of what a doable variable rate commission is for you there. In the directions field, the point of this is to be able to find the property without the use of GPS. So please don't just use Google or use GPS. Not everybody wants to do that. Sometimes a home, GPS isn't always right either. It's a lot better to, pick a major intersection or a major landmark and say, okay, from the Chick-fil-A on Coors, do this. So that's the point of the directions field there. Area and zone atlas are filled out automatically for you by the auto-populate. Right here you have your property subtype. You can choose either attached, detached, or manufactured. And one of the things I want you to notice is as you choose different options, different things down here become required. Like if you choose attached, this total units, unit location, floor number, and stories and building becomes required fields because those are all related to attached listings. For detached, the only thing that becomes required here is if it's off-site built or not. And then if you do manufactured, it's going to ask you for the length, width, model, and if it has a permanent foundation or not. So that's the purpose of this here, is to choose what type of property is it, attached, detached, or manufactured, and then you have the proper fields to fill out there. Coming on down here, a lot of this stuff is relatively self-explanatory. Make sure you choose your square foot source. I talked about floor plans earlier, right? It's really nice to be able to say that you got your square footage from a professionally measured floor plan, because in that way, if anything comes back, then you have that to point to. So once again, another plug. Please keep using floor plans. Love you guys that do that. Keep on coming down here. Master bedroom on main is another pretty common one. When we get over to the rooms tab, I'll show you that if this says yes, your level for your master bedroom needs to say main. That needs to match up because that's how people search for, whether the master bedroom is on a level that you don't have to go up or down stairs in order to get to it. You got your bathroom information here, your private pool. We talked about power production already. Lead-based paint disclosure. If a home is older than 1978, you will have to choose yes here, and you do have to upload that to the MLS. We do have a rule about that. Similar to PIDs, if there's a PID on the property, which is a little bit further down here, there's a yes. You do have to upload the PID document to the MLS. Going through some more options here. Again, a lot of this stuff is relatively self-explanatory. We talked about PIDs. Okay, property-specific remarks. A couple things on this. First off, any remarks left here need to be specific to the property. You don't really want to put any kind of showing information in here. You definitely don't want to talk about people. When you're looking at fair housing, the story is always you want to talk about the property, not the people. So one example I was talking about earlier is saying Fisherman's Paradise. It seems pretty innocuous, right? It's not even really a protected class, but you're still talking about the type of person that you're marketing the property to, which is really getting into a gray area that might get you in trouble with HUD. So the best thing to do is just stay specific to the property. Talk about the property, not the people you're marketing the property to. And you'll notice this is limited to 800 characters, and that 800 is what the majority of IDX and publisher websites use. If you absolutely have to unlock your inner Shakespeare, you can click on this More button, and there's another 10,000 remarks you can enter. But again, not everybody uses those. So you really want to make sure you have your most important information here in the 800. Make sure you end this section on a point that makes sense, not mid-sentence. And then if you have more, you can add it here in the 10,000. LOSO remarks, this is listing office, selling office remarks. This is, broker to broker communication. So this is where you put your showing information, contact such and such as part of my team in order to do this, information on sending offers, that kind of information. So that goes in the LOSO remarks. And then finally down here at the bottom is your transaction contact number and license number. So this is the name of the person who is handling the transaction. So what this was really put in is like teams, So, a team may have a certain person who handles inquiries for listings, and that's the name of the person you'd put here, because the listing agent or the listing member is going to show just the team name. Here you want to put the name of the person actually handling it. So that's what this is useful for. If you have a licensed transaction coordinator, that their information would go here as well if they're the ones that are doing that. To be clear, not transaction coordinator as in the person who's just handling the paperwork, but like if they're actually helping you set up showings and accepting offers and doing that part of the transaction, that's who you want there. If all they're doing is just the paperwork side of stuff, that's not really what we're looking for. It's who should someone call if they have questions about this property or want to show this property. That's what goes there. So moving on to the next tab is the details tab. Once again, anything that's red is required. So like build description, you have to select, is it new construction, resale, proposed construction, or under construction? And it'll tell you have to select at least one item. And then you'll also notice that in some sections, like here for sunroom, if you choose yes, now the rest of these fields become required as well. You have to describe what about that sunroom. Is it heated? Is it including the square foot? Is it finished or not? So on and so forth. A lot of the fields here on the detail tab are relatively self-explanatory. You have laundry location. How does a laundry get power? Does it have a guardhouse? Does it have an HOA? Here's one over here. That's a yes, no. And then if you choose HOA yes, you have to put the per month number and if it's a mandatory HOA or not. You have showing information and showing requirements. Quick note here. First off, make sure you pay special attention to this and be accurate, because this is what a lot of people look at for how they're going to interact with showings on your listing. Do you want people to schedule via ShowingTime? Do you want them to do live streams only because maybe the person is still worried about the pandemic? Things like that. And this is also a reminder that when you're looking at listings, make sure you're looking at the showing information. It's actually part of the code of ethics that you will follow the showing information provided by the listing broker, which is in turn provided by the seller. So showing requirements is just an extremely important part. Make sure you get right and make sure you're looking at it so that nobody gets in trouble and upsets the seller. Scrolling on down, you have things like your roof and what it's made out of, your exterior materials, exterior features, things like that. Not really a whole bunch else here. It's relatively self-explanatory. Really, the main thing to say about this page is you want to check as many things as you can on this page that are accurate. Of course, don't go checking things just to check things. But going back to our example of the person who searched for, they wanted a microwave and a refrigerator. If you're in here and your property has a microwave and you don't have that checked, and somebody has a search set up where they only want to see properties with microwaves, you're getting missed in that search. So you really want to make sure you check as many things on this page as you can that are accurate and not, just the bare minimum. So moving on to the rooms tab, we do require information on the living room, the kitchen, and the master bedroom. And the things you have to enter are the length, the width, and the level. And then you can, of course, enter more remarks as well. And this is what I was talking about earlier with that. If you have master bedroom on main marked yes, then your level here needs to say main. And the reason for that versus saying lower or first is in houses in our area, the main level isn't always the bottom level. Where there are homes that the main level that you enter into, maybe the second floor. There may be a basement, there may be a split level, there's lots of weird combinations in Albuquerque, right? So just make sure that it matches on main if you choose that master bedroom on main. If you want to get more detailed, you can click on add room, and then there's more rooms you can add as well. Like if you want to add the dining room, family room, bedrooms 2 through 5, or an office or a sauna, you can do that as well and get even more detailed. Appraisers will love you for that. and of course, the more data you can have, the better. And then finally, we have the final tab is the broker distribution here. So I want to talk about these options right here specifically, these seller opt-out options. These actually match up on your listing agreement. There's a section of your listing agreement that matches up one-to-one with these 4 options. And I want to talk about what they mean and what they don't. So first off, this first option, seller directs listings to be excluded from the internet. If you check that box, you're going to notice it's going to check all these and then uncheck both of these, because that is taking the listing out of the internet entirely. The only place it will be visible is to other realtors in the MLS. So if you have a seller who is concerned about this ridiculously crazy market where they don't want people just randomly driving by who don't have representation, you can check that box and it'll only be people who have access to the MLS will have access to that listing. It will not go out to Zillow. It will not go out to Realtor.com. It'll stay right here within the MLS. This one, seller directs address to be excluded from the internet. In that case, it'll still go out to your Zillows and your Realtor.coms, but it'll show undisclosed address. And I'll tell you, that makes the property really difficult to find. It is out there. It does exist. So if somebody searches for your price point with your bedrooms and bathrooms, it'll show up in that list as undisclosed, but otherwise it doesn't really show up, and it's usually kind of hard to find. So just keep that in mind. If that's something the seller wants to use, they may be better served just excluding it from the internet entirely. Seller directs listing to not be used in AVMs on the internet. That's an interesting one. So one of the misconceptions that people have is that if you check this box, then websites will not put an estimate of the home's value on there. That's not true. What it actually does is it means that the value of that home is not being used in the estimate, in the calculation of the estimate. So that can actually hurt you. So just kind of be careful with that. And then finally, this last one is kind of, it deals with what's called a virtual office website, which we really don't have very many of. They're not nearly as common as they were back in the early 2000s. And what that would do is a virtual office website could add their own comments to your listing. Like if they wanted to say, check out how great the flooring is in this house or something like that, then they could do that unless you check this box, which makes it where they're not allowed to do that. So, but virtual office websites are very few and far between these days. They really didn't gain a whole lot of traction, so that's not as big of a deal. But all four of those options, again, they are reflected on your listing agreement and should match your seller's wishes on the listing agreement. So that's an important section to make sure you're talking to them about. So anyways, once you've entered all that information, you come up here to the top right and you just click on Add Listing. Now, one little trick I want to show you is that might actually be better to do. So remember I talked earlier when we were talking about subscriptions and you have that ASAP, and when you add a listing, there's about a 15-minute gap. So one of the things you've probably noticed is we're ready to click Add Listing here, but we haven't added any photos yet, right? And you really want to get your photos on there and make sure you have that best first impression. So you can click Add Listing here, go back out to Change Listing, add your photos, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Or sometimes it's better to just hit Save and Complete. So we're going to go ahead and hit Save and Complete here. And now we're going to go to the incomplete listing, and it brings you to the Change Listing tab. So here, now you can add your photos. So you haven't actually added it yet. You just have it in incomplete status, and this is where you can click on photos and then add your photos from there. And all it is you can either drag and drop a photo right here, or you click this Add Photos button in the top right and choose your photos and hit Open. I don't want to add my headshot, and then the photos will load on here for you. Same thing with documents. You can click Documents, click Add Document, choose your document, and then upload it to the listing. So let's talk about documents for a second here, because there's a couple different documents that are required, and these are documents that are actually required by law. Like state law says that if federal law says if a home is older than 1978, you must include a lead-based paint disclosure. State law says if a property exists in a PID, you must provide the PID disclosure. State law also says that for all sales, you must provide a tax levy disclosure prior to accepting an offer. And that's a really key piece there. You have to do that prior to accepting the offer. So the best place to do that is the MLS. Because that way, anybody who's looking at your listing before they go to their buyer to write an offer has that information available to them. And that information does have to be provided specifically by the broker representing the seller. It says that in state law. So one of the things we're going to start doing soon is checking to make sure this information is on there. So you'll notice there's two different document descriptions here. There's one where you can choose tax levy disclosure, you can choose PID disclosure, and you can choose lead-based paint from the list, or you can type it in yourself. Especially for those three documents that we're going to be checking for to make sure they exist, make sure you actually use the drop down and choose it from here, because that's how we're going to be able to tell that you have the right document uploaded. So make sure you get your documents listed on there. You can choose whether you want the document to be public or private. Public does not mean that the document is available on Zillow Realtor.com. It just means that other members of the MLS can share that directly with their buyers without having to print it out or do something else along those lines. All right. And then finally, when we get back over here, if you have a video or virtual tour, you can also add those here as well. So once you're done there, one of the things that you can do is you can click on this Finish Add Listing. It'll walk you through how to add the listing now. So we're going to click Finish Add Listing. I don't need to add photos. It's going to tell you click listing information. I'm ready to add it. And then you're going to click Add Listing. And then that's when it'll actually add it to the market and it'll give you an MLS number. So, of course, I'm not going to do that because this isn't a real listing. My house is not for sale. But that's how you add the listing back to the MLS. So go through, add it, save as incomplete, get your photos and documents added, click in Complete Listing, and then click Add Listing, and it'll be on there for you. So now, one other thing I want to talk about with adding a listing, and then we'll go into looking at change listing, is right here you have this copy option. Copy is something that might save you a lot of time. So let's say you had a property and it wasn't this current market, so it didn't sell. And for whatever reason you took it off the market, you did some more work to it. It's 60 days later, and you want to add a new listing back on. You can actually come in here and put in the existing listing number and then hit next. And what that'll do is it will take the information from the old listing and it'll bring it into the new listing for you, so you don't have to retype all that. Of course, you'll go through and you'll change the things that were different. Or let's say it's you're listing 5 lots that are essentially the exact same thing, but the only thing that's different is the address. You can hit copy, change the address, hit add listing, save yourself a bunch of work. So that copy listing is a really powerful function for you. Now let's talk about change listing. So that's right here. We're under menu, and then we're going to, underneath add change, we're going to click on change listing. And if you have an active listing, it'll show up here for you. But if it's in pending or something, or coming soon, you'll come over here and click this drop down, and you can look at the other listings. I don't have one, so I'm just going to kind of pick a number at random here and hit next. And this brings up the change listing screen. So this is where you can go in. This is an expired listing. It's a really old expired listing though, from 2017, so nobody get any ideas. But this is where you can come in and you can either put the listing back on the market. Well, not in this case. This one's too old to go back on market. But let's just say it was pending. You would have an option for back on market there. You can close the listing. You can pen the listing if it's active. Or you can go back into listing information and make changes there. So this is a lot of the same stuff we already talked about. You also have open house. You click on open house and then click add open house. It'll ask you, your open house date, time. Is it an in-person or is it a live stream? And you can enter the link for the live stream there. That's adding an open house. Relatively straightforward what you can do there. Just, the main thing is to look for, your status. Things that you're going to do to your status are down here, and they're all different depending on what status the property's in. When you're in active, you're going to have cancel listing as an option. You're going to have penned listing as an option. When you're in pending, you're going to have back on market as an option or withdraw listing. So that status section will change depending on what you're looking at. And let's talk about the differences in statuses real quick for a moment as well, since this is mostly going to be watched by new members. Withdrawn, what that means is I still have a listing agreement on this property, but for whatever reason, the property is not available for showings right now. So, maybe there has to be work done to the property. Maybe the deal fell through and there was an inspection issue that has to be fixed before they want to go back on market. Maybe you go under contract and you're just not getting any bites, and they decide they want to declutter their house a little bit and maybe listen to your advice before they go back on market. Things like that. So that's what withdrawn is for. If you move into a canceled or expired instead, then there's systems out there that pick up on canceled or expired listings that provide that to people to do, cold calling and stuff, because canceled or expired means I no longer have a listing agreement on this property, which means that my client is available to be taken by other people. So you really don't want to do that. If you still have an active listing agreement, and only if you still have a listing agreement, you want to move into withdrawn instead. Because then that tells people, hey, I still have an agreement on this. Don't contact my customer. And then once that listing agreement expires, it'll still expire and come out of withdrawn if it happens while you're in there. That's about it for change listing. The only thing I want to mention is if you do have a listing that is expired or canceled, then your broker actually can make it go back on market as long as it's within 30 days. If it's outside of 30 days, you're going to want to start a new listing using copy anyways, because in that way you can reset your days on market. And that's the only way to reset days on market, is to be off market for 30 days. So, doing any kind of thing where you're canceling a listing or starting a new one in order to manipulate days on market is against the MLS rules. And you will get dinged for it, and we're going to fix your days on market to what's actual anyways. So don't try that, please. Okay, so that is change listing. So I'm going to get back to the dashboard here, and the last thing I want to cover is I want to go through some of the products that we have available for you through Southwest MLS. So most of these products are actually going to show up under menu, but I'm actually going to start on quick search because I want to start off talking about ShowingTime. So in ShowingTime, let me just kind of narrow this down to a pretty small window here so I can get a handful of listings. The first thing you can do is if you're wanting to schedule a showing on a property, let's look at this one down here in Los Lunas. If you click on this button right here, it's either that one or over here it says ShowingTime. Either one of those goes to the same place. It'll bring you to this screen where you can enter your showing information, or you can schedule the showing, I mean. So just all you have to do right here is just make sure you have your information here is correct, and then you click on this Schedule Single Showing. And then this shows you the calendar of what times are available. So here, right now it's 12:30. So obviously you can't go backwards in time, so it's blocked out there. But then right here you can see that they've got a schedule, showing scheduled later in the day already, so that time is blocked out. But you can pick, say, 3 o'clock today or sometime early or later in the week, and then that'll bring up and it'll ask you, how long do you want to schedule the appointment for, and then you can hit Request Appointment. Now, if you choose buyer's name right here, it's not providing that to the listing broker. It's only giving you that information for your purposes in case you want to pull it up in your showing time later. But that's all you have to do to schedule a showing. You click the showing time, you click schedule a showing, choose your time, and hit request appointment after filling out the information about it. And it'll tell you here, like, it does not accept appointment overlaps. You do have to wait for confirmation, so it's not an immediate one, and things like that as well. So you can see that information about the showings there. Now, the flip side of showing time is, if you want to set that information I was just talking about, like if you're going to have the not allow overlaps, or if you're going to have, you want to set certain time periods and things like that. All right, so to show you how to set up your showing information for a property, I've actually logged in here to Jeanette's login, and I'm going to hop over here. I'm going to, under menu, I'm going to go to products and then click on showing time. Now, once you're in showing time, over here on the left side, you can just that remind me later. Over on the left side, you're going to click on listing setup, and then it's going to bring up your listings for you. I'm actually going to grab, she has a land listing here, which you obviously wouldn't use ShowingTime for, but just using it as an example. So this is where you can go and you can set up the information about this property. So, down here, for example, do you want to set a maximum appointment length? You have, I think the default is 2 hours, but you can make that shorter if you want to. Do you want to allow overlapping appointments or not? And if you are going to allow them, do you want to inform the showing agents or not? If you want to set up a restriction, so you want to say you can't show it on the 20th. You choose that right there and hit save showing restriction. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to affect your main listing. And then you can also right here, you can choose how do you want to receive appointments. Do you want it done by text, by email, by push notification? You can also add the owner occupant. If you want to add the seller on here and make the seller part of the process to approve appointments or not. You can add the owner occupant and then make it where they can approve appointments by text or push notification. And then right here, you can choose, are appointments required or is it go and show? If it's go and show, then people will make the appointment, but then it'll automatically approve it for them so they can just go show it. If it's appointments required, then you have to approve the appointment. So that's how you can go in and you can set and you can work with ShowingTime. It's relatively straightforward. This is another one that I recommend kind of playing around with because there's a lot of other information in here. There's also, if you go under this help and support on the left side, they also have more training and videos and things like that for you as well. So it's, getting started, introduction to ShowingTime for the MLS, what it looks like in Flex. Over here, you can, do appointment scheduling or, look at the different reports, things like that. So quite a bit of information available there. Also, this is their support number and their support email. ShowingTime support's really, really good. One of the better in the industry. So if you have questions, you can certainly always contact them. So flipping back over here, give me a moment to get back under my name. Next up, I want to show you Remine. So Remine is kind of our tax data product. This is the product that we use that kind of gathers all the publicly available information on a property into one place. So to get to that, under menu, you scroll down here to products and you click on Remine. Or if you're looking at a particular property, like if we're looking at this property right here, you can click Remine and it'll bring you to the information for that particular property. But let me go through this way for you. So you're going to click Remine. It does take a second to log in here, so just give it a second to run through its paces and get us logged in. And Remine is a really powerful product. There's quite a bit it can do for you. It's really a great place to go and get information about the listing, especially as you're filling out you're going through your ad listing, you can get more information on it. But once we're in here, you can just come over here to search. And once again, I'm just going to use my personal property as the example here. But you can just come up here and you can search for 3704 Shiraz Road. And you'll notice it'll update as we go, so now I can just click on it. And that brings up the information on this particular property. So you'll have your tax assessment information. You'll have, it was the last time it was purchased. It has, key facts, building features, tax and assessment information, assessed value, market value. Here's the property history on it. So this shows our sale right here. Coming down here, you got the mortgage history. You have a valuation on the property from multiple different sources, so you can kind of compare and contrast. It just kind of gives you a lot of information about the property all in one place. So that's the main use for Remine. Another thing I want to show you is when you're under this search and you're on the map and you zoom in to a certain area. Like I'm going to kind of zoom in around my neighborhood here again. You do have to zoom in close enough that the little blue dots show up. So not the big blue dots. Those are the big blue dots still. But once you get close enough, you can see the little blue dots. right here, you'll notice I changed from listing to properties, because properties is now showing you everything. It's all the off-market information for the entire area. Over here on this left side, there's a bunch of different filters you can use. Like, for example, if you want to look at ownership time, you want to click on that and you want to see who has owned their house, their property for more than 20 years. So now you can see these are the people that have been in their homes for longer than 20 years in this area. Or you can go down and say you want to see absentee. Do you want to see homes that are owned by a corporation or by an owner-occupant? So there's a lot of other information over here that you can use that has a lot more information for you that is available in Remine. They also have a help button down here in the bottom right. If you click on that, there's a place to see live and recorded webinars. There's also self-guided tours, similar to what I talked about in Flex. So a lot of options there for things that it can teach you. And one more thing I want to talk about in Remine here is this word cart. The word cart usually implies you have to buy something, right? That's not really the case in Remine. A cart is just a collection of listings. So let's just say, I'm looking at these listings here, and I'm going to click the polygon tool up top here, and I just want to know I want to see these properties. So I'm drawing the shape similar to how I did in Flex, where one click is each corner, and then you click here to finish the shape. So I only want these properties. And then I'm going to hit select all, and then I click on cart. Again, not buying anything. It just brings me to a page where I can name this. So I'll name this, Lomas Del Rey, and I'll put today's date on it because again I use this example a lot, and add 18 properties to cart. So now what that does is it makes it where you can use that cart for a lot of different things. Like, for example, if you come over here to carts, you can click on the Loma Del Rey 4022 that we just created, and you can send mailers. You can export the data with a lot of different information. When you click on that export tab, it'll give you, you have to choose the properties. Click on the export tab. It'll give you, what information do you want? What columns do you want? Do you want to include estimated value? Do you want to include absentee status? Do you want to include listing information? So there's a lot of different things you can do there with the data. And that's all a cart is just a collection of listings. It's not buying anything, so you don't have to worry about that. That's about it for Remine. Like I said, there's a whole lot more, but check out their training and information on that. Another one I want to show you is RPR. So again, we're under menu, we're clicking on products, and we're going to RPR. So RPR is a product created by the National Association of Realtors. Within this, there's a lot of different things you can do. One of the most powerful things is creating reports. I'm going to show you an example of a report that I created again on my home that it's an 81-page report that it literally took me about 4 clicks to get there. So the way it works is you start by searching for the property. So you search for it up here, hit search, there it is. Click on create report. It's two actions. Click on seller's report, 3 actions. Scroll down to the bottom and hit run report, 4 actions. And what that does, once you do that, it'll take a couple minutes because it is kind of a large report, but I've already got it created up here, so I'm just going to go ahead and open it up. But you can see this created a 75-page report on this property for me. And that information includes a lot of stuff. It has a current estimated value. It has home facts. It has a livability index from AARP. It has the photos that were on the listing last time it was in the MLS. It has property history, assessed value. It gives a market activity report for the area. It shows list price versus sale price and average price adjustments for the area, as well as more market statistics and more market health information. Price range of homes sold in the area. The median days in RPR. The recent market activity. So you can see homes here that have, sold or pended or were recently added to the market. And then it even starts going into some comparables for you. So it has these comparable listings, and then it has information about each individual comparable listing. So just with a couple clicks, we've created a 75-page report that we can provide to a seller that gives them all of this information. So that's the real power of RPR, is those reports. And you'll see there's a lot of different reports here too. You got a property report, seller's report, a mini report, a valuation workbook, market activity, neighborhood information, school information. There's just an absolute ton of information available in RPR here for you. And that's the real power of it. It also has a lot of different things with like neighborhood information. So let's go to this neighborhood search. And we're searching for a neighborhood. So I'll put in, let's try out Loma Del Rey. See if that works for us. Yeah, Loma Del Rey in Albuquerque. Hit search. And give it a moment here, and it's going to bring up information on that neighborhood. So we have, this is all median estimated value type stuff. Let's click on housing. We can see that the estimated value change in Loma Del Rey was plus 5.4%. You got, how many people own in the area, how many people rent in the area. Under people, it's going to have our demographic information for that neighborhood. And same thing with economy and the quality of life is going to talk about things like parks and things like that. So here we go. We have people. We have education level. We have population of adults. We'll have children, households with children, income brackets. And then let's go over here to quality of life, and it's going to talk about nearby parks, elevation, rainfall, commute time, water quality. So just an absolute ton of information available in RPR here for you. So really great product. The app is really great as well. It gives you a lot of this information just at your fingertips. So highly recommend trying that out as well. One last product I'm just going to talk about, but I can't really show you because it doesn't, my login is different than yours, but it's ListTrac. And one of the great things that ListTrac does is it shows you how many times your property is being viewed on various websites. So, you can go in there and it'll show you how many times has this property been viewed on Zillow, how many times it's been viewed on the MLS, how many times it's been viewed on Realtor.com. And you can actually go in there and very easily set up a seller report that emails your seller as often as you want, telling them how their listing is faring on the internet. And then there's a way that they can also compare it to the average. So if their home is being viewed 1,500 times on Zillow, but the average for a price range in that area is only 1,000, you're doing pretty good. So there's a lot of really great information in ListTrac there as well, so I highly recommend everybody checking that out. So that's about it. That's all I have for this video. If you watched the entire thing, thank you. I feel a little sorry for you listening to me drone on for this long, but hopefully that was useful information for you. Share this with others, help them out. Of course, if you have any questions or you need anything from us, our contact information is down at the bottom here, support@swmls.com, or our phone number is 505-843-8833. Kenna and Adrian and I are always here to help. So please let us know if there's anything we can do or any questions we can answer for you. Thank you all and have a great day.